Hello, 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 hello.
Sorry, I tried to jump in right there, and I just... No, let's try this again. Let's try this again. Go, 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 go.
Hello, hello, hello.
Oh, boy.
Hello. You want to be the fourth voice?
On my part. I apologize.
What I'd like to know is if all those Stooges voices, I get that the fourth voice, I try to be all inclusive. Really, the fourth voice shouldn't be them all joining in. It should be Curly Joe, so he gets a seat at the table. So it's the four Stooges.
But then you have to remake all of the merch, and that...
I know. Licensing, that Cam, why can't you just go with the script? God damn it. I'm your host, Sully, and the beyond welcome guest that I got here today is comedian, podcast, and freelance writer Robert Clarke-Chan.
Good day to you all.
You might know him from performing at the LA Pack Theater, as well as the All Elite Wrestling Doubleback podcast, knowing as Half the Podcast, and recurring editor and judge on Who Would Win.
Indeed.
So you do it all. You do it all.
Kind of a truncated CV, but yeah, that'll do.
First off, welcome to the show. Great to have you as the first part in this Who Would Win themed podcast interviews.
There's a Who Would Win theme show series. Okay, I got you.
Right, I've had some of the other ones, on here before, but like you're up, right. Ray's up, and Crystal's up next week, and James, we'll get to him soon when September dies down. I'll try to get Britt Pope, but I don't know. He's busy too.
He's a busy man. Got things to do.
He's the VP.
Yes, the VP.
Don't worry, I'll join the Patreon soon and help you guys come up with some versus matches. Where did it all begin? Like, again, were you always an LA kid, or did you migrate over
San Francisco?
Oh, nice.
Lived in Marin County, lived in Washington State, moved down to Bakersfield, California, spent an interminable amount of time there. Eventually the racism got too much for me, and I was like, you know what? Los Angeles is like 90 minutes away, so...
Were there a lot of ghetto and insensitive areas? Just like...
Well, if by insensitive areas you mean the entirety of the Central Valley, then yes. All of it is horrible.
I'm sorry. Well, if you're ever in San Francisco again, I might say hi to you at one of the bookstores next time I'm just there.
Oh, yeah. San Francisco's lovely. If I could afford to live there, I would. But I can't.
Oh, neither can I, but I'll probably hang tight with some scientists' relatives.
There you go. I have extended family in San Francisco, and most of them are very well off, but I am not close enough with them to be like, hey, can I crash on your couch for like 6 years? So here we are. Well,
one of these days you can maybe do a Nash Bridges spoof show for the web and just be like, just making fun of all the various, basically it's just making fun of, it's a San Francisco sitcom, and then it's just half spoof of all these other just stupid 90s shows that we all secretly love.
It's a fine town for sitcomming.
Sitcomming and Mark Chan's 264. Wow, so you've been all over the place. Was it rough just like having to travel at that young an age, or were you just like, hey, it can't be any worse than what I got right now?
It is what it is. I mean, when you're a kid, whatever you're doing is normal. And then it's only years later when you grow up and you're like, wait a minute, what, did everybody else not do the same thing that I did? Ah, damn it.
The cake is a lie. Man.
But I mean, yeah, it works out, and you end up where you're supposed to end up, I guess. Like someplace like Bakersfield it's very inexpensive to live, so it's really easy to get stuck there. But it's also pretty terrible. So at some point you just reach a breaking point, and you're like, you know what, we gotta go. We gotta go. And it was sort of a decision like, okay, I'm done with little cities. I got to move to a big city. Is it New York or Los Angeles? And don't have to pay for a airfare to get to Los Angeles.
Very cool. You've talked briefly about some of your family life and everything, but where did it all kind of hit you? It's like, man, I'm such a geek. I'm such a.
Ooh, well, when I was 4 years old, I was in front of preschool, and my mother told me to put on my jacket, and I put it on backwards, intentionally. With like you put your arms into the sleeves, and like the back of your jacket's now on your front, and
what every kid does.
Yeah, well, I mean, I would hope so. At some point, you got to put things on differently.
You're going to whether you want to or not. Someone will tell you, "Hey, why's your shirt tag in front of your face?"
I mean, like I got like their kids that then like mocked me for it, and but it was intentional. I intended to put it on, and at that point, you kind of either take it off, put it back on right, and say like, "Yep, silly me," or you're like, "Can I swear on this?"
Fuckity, fuck. Yeah.
Fuck all y'all. I'm gonna do my thing. So, like around 4 years old, I had a very strong contrarian streak just built into me, and
that's amazing.
I mean, that's just what it is. You just grow up and you have to deal with this thing that is a part of you, and comedy is one way to sort of deal with that. When you just feel different from everybody else, there's often a desire to explain to other people what it is you're thinking, because clearly everybody else isn't thinking the same way you are. So,
nice.
There's a lot of different ways you can do that.
Well, I'm glad you kind of let that all out, early on. I don't think anyone who says they had a normal childhood is like, I don't think anyone even knows what normal means. You're gonna.
Oh yeah, no.
You gotta do something.
Literally, everybody should go to therapy, because there is 100% chance that your parents screwed up. They screwed up bad, and you don't always know where it is. Like, it's easy if they just like abused you, physically abused you, threw you into the wall, slapped you around. But when they like just pay a little bit more attention to the television than you in an amount that is just a little bit off, it'll do something to you. So it's always good to like try and figure some of that stuff out.
1,000%. And it's tough making friends and everything, and I don't think it's any easier.
Nope. That's one of the reasons why we're still in LA, because we're like, well, we could just up and move somewhere else, and then we'd have to make new friends. We'd have to figure everything else out. We have to figure out where the good taco places are. We have to make sure there are taco places, and like, just you know what? We're just gonna stay here. It's way too expensive, and the housing market's gonna crash, and we're gonna be upside down on this house. But god damn it, this is where all the nice people are.
Would you describe your folks as pretty supporting and laid back, or were they pretty strict and that just made you work even more in the contrarian nature?
I had a single mom, so there was a lot of just like figuring that out. And now that I have a kid, like by my mid-30s, I had come to terms with my upbringing. I like realized like, oh yeah, my mom was trying as hard as she could. And, she got some stuff right and some stuff wrong. Overall, like, I'm here, and, I'm...
Did you ever meet your other parent, or did you say, screw him, he's not there for me?
Did not. My mom kept in touch with him, and she was like, hey, when I was 18, she was like, hey, do you want to talk to your dad? I'm like, yeah, all right, sure. And I did, and it was kind of interesting. We had a lot of things in common. He was like, he plays bass, and I'm like, I play bass, and he's got another daughter like plays a cello or something like that, and it's just some interesting things. Like, oh, well, this is like an interesting person. Okay, thanks. And that was that, because when you grow up, whatever it is, it's normal. So it was normal not having a dad, and it continues to be so.
How would you describe your parenting style, since you didn't have anything to draw from other than your mother?
I mean, I say a lot. Whatever it is that my mother did, I'm going to do the exact opposite. Like kind of the Seinfeld thing, which is really mean to my mom, and it's not intended to be. Basically, my mother spent all day long working so that she could afford to house and feed, herself and a child, which turns out is really fucking hard. So, like, all I try and do is like spend as much time with my kid as possible and recognize that he is a child who knows nothing about the world. He came out of the womb and knew nothing. So you have to teach him everything, even, like right off the bat. I did not know that you have to teach your child to breastfeed. I'm like, that's going to be the most basic thing in the world, right? The kid's like hungry and he latches onto something and starts sucking and good. No, you have to teach a child to do that. And if you have to teach a child the most basic things in the world, he's got breathing down, and that's kind of it. It sort of like, you just have to remember every single day, that like, pick that thing up. You can't really get mad at him, for not picking the thing up because he doesn't know how to do it. He hasn't had 10, 20, 30, 40 years of experience of realizing, oh yeah, I should pick that up so I don't trip over it later.
Everyone thinks we're a TV dinner world. Is like, no, it doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't just get done in 5 to 20 minutes.
Yeah. And you just have to keep reminding yourself every day, 1,000 times a day, that, it's there's a human being there who's learning stuff. So, just endless patience.
Well, and so, you've been fortunate to see more than 3 decades worth of just different kind of insights and trends and societal breakthroughs. How would you describe your current community that you're kind of in, especially since you got introduced to the world of comedy in 97 and like you say, you have a family and you've been able to just use the internet to your advantage in your comedy routines? I
mean, yeah, in 97, I was getting a theater degree, stumbled across comedy sports. I'm like, well, this seems kind of interesting. I was terrified of it because I'm a person who likes to prepare for things, and I don't like trying to do stuff on the fly, off the cuff. I don't like to improvise. So I'm like, well, fuck it. Let's see what happens. And I just dove in and, you try to, in your life, when you see something that scares you, recognize there's a reason why it scares you. It's probably because it's something there's a hole in you somewhere, or like a lack of understanding of something. Let's figure out what that is. So, just go right at it. So yeah, started doing that, then started doing sketch comedy. Then, like my comedy has always been about comfort the afflicted, afflict the comfortable. My mom was a hippie, so like it was less about laughs for me and more about like, how can I find a way to explain what's wrong with the world in a way that people will get. We'll laugh and then we'll maybe walk away and realize like, oh, that's what that meant. Like, oh, and hopefully they walk away seeing the world a little bit differently and a little bit more kindly, with a little bit more love for their fellow human. So
you were a storyteller first, basically.
No, I suck at storytelling. Explicitly so. That's why I never wrote a screenplay, because like once you get beyond 5-6 pages of a sketch, like all I ever want to do is just create a horrible caricature of a terrible person and say like, look, this is terrible. Let's not be that. And out, blackout. I'm off. We're going to do something else. I enjoy stories, but I am terrible at telling them.
I don't know, man. I think you could do better than all this science mumbo jumbo exposition epics or overblown comedy that's trying too hard and just feeling like rants. But what do I know?
Yeah.
Who are your comedy icons?
Ooh, boy. Well, first off, there's Bill Hicks, which is kind of problematic because what fandom of Bill Hicks has become is not what it was.
Oh, yeah.
Because he was first and foremost a truth teller, and only like he also had massive comedic chops. But a lot of people just their takeaway was like, oh, look how he pushed the edge, and was was extreme and said all sorts of offensive things, and their only takeaway is the offensive part of it. And
missing
the philosophy behind
point of the story. That could go, but that goes with any comedian. There's always people wanting to take Richard Pryor or George Carlin or even Dennis Leary just out of sequence, and you're like, but you didn't even listen to the build up.
Yeah. Like and I don't remember who it was that was talking about satire being completely worthless. Like we've destroyed satire because of Stephen Colbert with his Colbert Report. So many people took it at face value. Are you spreading more hurt than you are goodness by doing this thing that is very clearly a satire? And people,
but Robert,
hear what they want to hear.
He's this. No.
Yeah. And like that one hurt a lot, and it took me a while to kind of think it through. I don't think it's exactly correct, but I do think it requires a lot of thought in this world that we live in. Kind of like how it's not that guns are the problem, it's the problem that it makes it so easy for a person to take out their frustrations, their anger, their hurt on other people with it.
Oh, but Robert, that's very thought-provoking and well thought out. But yeah, it is annoying how it's like, it's the same thing with bankers and everything. Is like you take away the corporation that's the lobbyer, but everyone NFTs have been kind of spreading a lot of bots just favoring their BS tactics. So yeah, it is kind of interesting how many problems are systematic, but it's only been elongated even more by the internet. And like you say, so many watchdog groups and just anti-groups just take, resequencing everything. I call it the Alex Jones effect. But anyway, and about due process.
You could call it the shitposting group effect. It's the same thing we were talking about earlier, where the technology has made it so easy to just be the worst versions of ourselves. And you have to take that into account when you're interacting with the world.
Yeah.
And I mean, I still think the comedy is a good way of doing that, because at base, the job of a comedian is to find something about the world that is kind of not right, and sort of to take something that everybody accepts as true and present it to people and be like, yeah, but isn't it kind of weird? Let's break it down. Like airline food is the the basic trope that everybody goes to, like, hey, what's the deal with airline food? That's it. We're looking at a thing that nobody thinks about. Airline food, oh, it's bad. And then we talk about it and break it down and, hopefully find ways to make whatever it is better. So
yeah, and no, that's so true too, because it seems like now we walk the fine line of, are we just ranting? Are we doing the equivalent of come home after work and hang out with friends and bitch for 2 hours drunkenly? Or are we actually being constructive and witty? And hopefully that, like you say, that actually does someone out at another job actually hears that and says, oh, that's an unflattering remark. I guess I better, one up that. I better actually do something better about that and improve this. I'm going to be the best airline cuisine ever.
One hopes. Almost never happens, but like I just sort of live on a philosophy of like, if you can make the world one iota better, then that's your job on this planet.
Right.
Because if 7 billion people all make the world one iota better, the world's going to get a lot better.
No, I'm glad you said that, because like I had a very bitter aunt, rest in peace. She and her husband, one of my uncles, who I'm not as close with, I'll let everyone else who's listening do the math. They would do the kind of the blame game, and I think when we live in a DoorDash world and everything, just people are just whatever they've never opened a conversation about, they still, even when they aren't necessarily trying to say, I know all the answers to everything, they assume they still know most of the stories. Like, no, that dude is doing his job, and you just denied him a proper, tip, which is part of his livelihood. And because it was late by X amount of 5 minutes, you're not like you were any more hungry than you were 20 minutes ago, but whatever. It's just like people love to just instantly just jump on a bandwagon and just be like, I got someone's got to be the scapegoat. Someone's got to be the fall guy. And it's like, how about there be no fall guys? Why not there just be someone who we have a discussion with? Because, I mean, if you go to, say, the Apple Store, for instance, everyone claims to be the manager. That's their tactic. You're never going to know who the real manager is unless you actually work there. So, I mean, you got to take it all with a grain of salt. I mean, it's kind of like how we, yes, look at presidential leaders and it's like, yeah, well, this is just, or even a film director. It's like, they're the main creative force. We still got to dissect the whole organization. It's not a one-man show. There's other culprits with it, who were not doing their jobs. And you make a good point on, are you contributing to the problem, or are you actually trying to suggest an amusing solving? And it does seem like many more comedians are just trying to go the Joe Rogan route, which is, I'm a half-assed Howard Stern, and now I'm going to try and see how many people I can offend, and then do the whole victim card. Oh, are you offended?
It feels good to be a victim. I mean, for your aunt, like, the world is against me, this waiter is against me, to the comedian, like, you all just don't get it, man.
Gotta pick on the lower class, the middle class, even though I'm a rich, privileged idiot.
It's hard because stand-up comedy especially attracts people who have a need for attention. That's any performing art, but it rewards in a different kind of way. Like, for a lot of people, and as a contrarian, I can tell you, it feels good sometimes to have everybody go, oh, because you get to set the terms of that reaction. You get to say filthy, racist, sexist, whatever, knowing that everyone's going to go, and then you can say, yes, that's exactly what I wanted, and you did it for me. It's a lot harder to be able to say something meaningful, express something cogent about the world, and have people give you a reaction of laughter. It's really fucking hard to write those jokes.
You're going to have half the trolls in the audience saying, oh, that's so preachy. And then there's going to be others saying, that was funny, but now that made me sad.
I mean, here's the thing. Like, preachy is another one. The clapter that a lot of comedians don't care for. To be fair, I don't either. Where instead of getting laughter, they're like, yes, I agree with that 100%. That is also a thing that is a lot easier to do, again, than writing a joke that says the same thing, but does it in a way that subverts the audience expectations, that gives them something they knew to be true in a way they weren't expecting.
1,000%. As like, clapping is about the equivalent of someone gives you a pat on the back. Laughter is the actual tip plus a hug. Sometimes you can get too much of that. It's like, okay, dying down. The joke was, 5 minutes ago. We gotta move on, guys.
No, never.
Never? Okay.
No. I did
good enough laughter.
Noises Off back in college, and like, I was the only actor I feel like that was basically only a comedic actor.
Were you familiar with sketch shows like Mad TV, Whose Lines It Anyway, other improv scenes at that point? I did not.
Oh gosh.
Was it just more word of mouth? Like,
no, this might have even been before that. There
SCTV
probably was. Oh, I mean, definitely sketch comedy, yeah. But just like, from a young age, I've always been drawn to the laughter. So Noises Off is a comedy, and it's not like these other people weren't funny, but like, I feel like we were all there to be like sort of dramatic actors. And I was just on a trajectory to realize that, like, you know what, I'm just not good at dramatic acting, but I can get a laugh. So like, my objective every night was to basically get an applause break. There was like a scene where I was like, just doing some physical comedy of like trying to get into bed or something. And I would just push it further and further every night. And then I like went over to the, like, made my arm fall asleep and then like slammed it into the window. Like none of that was in the stage directions. None of it was the director saying, go ahead and do this thing. It was just me being like, how many ways can I fall down on this stage in this 30-second spot that I am alone on stage? And I would just keep pushing it longer and longer and longer every night. And in retrospect, terrible idea. Horrible. But fuck it, it's a comedy. So
right. You get an audience either way. So I hear you. And like you say, improv seems just like impossible and annoying growing up. And then when you actually see the practicality about it, it kind of opens up your mind and you're able to make decisions on the fly.
It also, I mean, if you really commit to it, it'll change your fucking life.
I now make decisions immediately. I used to be the chicken shit who was just like, well, what do you want? Well, I'm going to be here all day if I ask them. No, I'm booking this flight and that's that. You know, no more in ifs or uffs about it. You
make decisions faster. You collaborate better. It's, again, really easy to be the victim, to be the critic, to say, this is wrong. This project you're bringing to me, that's bad, that's bad, that's bad. Go fix that. It's way harder to say, yes, I see what you got there. How about we do this? Let's add this. Let's bring this on. Like any time that I feel like being an asshole and being like, that's bad, I stop and think like, okay, well, what can I contribute?
Right.
And I try not to open my mouth unless I have something that adds, because just saying no will stop an improv scene dead.
Right.
And
negate is the first rule. Don't negate.
Yeah. In real life, the same thing happens. If you just say no, like my kid plays this goddamn game where it's like, okay, what do you want for breakfast, kid? Why don't you tell me what I want? And then I got to go like, do you want a banana? Do you want cereal? Do you want an apple? Do you want milk? What the fuck do you want?
Way better.
He's not contributing anything. He's saying, give me, and you have to keep on providing things until, you know.
How dare I communicate in some kind of acceptable fashion or acknowledge that you actually care about my well-being. But yeah.
And he's 4, so that's fine. But, you know, that is that mentality. And many, many adults have that 4-year-old mentality out in the world. And
yep.
It sometimes makes it difficult to work with people because I'm like, why aren't you helping instead of hurting right now? I'm used to surrounding myself with people who instantly get it and are like, yes, and what?
And next. And this. And that.
So like, yeah, that's the downside is you have to sort of recalibrate for the rest of the world who hasn't figured that out yet.
The shit writes itself is literally the meaning of this is like, why, yes, how did you know I have 2 heads on my shoulder? How did you know I have a Medusa's gaze and I shatter everyone into stone? No, it's like, you don't know until you know. And then, like you say, you just go with it and adapt. And eventually everyone's, you know, if they don't like their current standing, you know, they go on your route and you're like, thank you. I was trying to get you on this road, but you didn't click your heels widely enough. You know, you gotta, now you're with Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz. Now you're fine. Now you're on the right path.
Yes, indeed.
Growing up, high school theater sucked. Now college theater, great. Did you feel like that was kind of the same deal with other previous generations where high school, you're just trying to get by, go with a basic grade of just say this line coherently, and college, you're actually, they make time for mature-minded people who are trying to do all kinds of things, theater stuff, and...
I loved high school theater.
Okay.
It was the only place where I didn't feel as weird, because everybody was a little bit nuts and eccentric in their own specific ways, which was a lot of fun. You found a lot of different kooks there where, like, you know, if you fall in with, like, the punks, it's fairly regimented. You've got one kind of weird to be. And if you fall in, you know, with the stoners, one kind of weird to be. But then I went to college and I was like, okay, it is time to put away childish things. Now I must get a degree so that I can become a teacher. Then I was going to college and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to I'm going to take a, sorry about that.
I'm not sure if you want me to work that in there. It is a theater.
I tell you what, man. I've been trying to build a spreadsheet for Knowing Is Half the Podcast, and I've had to go back and listen to some of the older episodes, trying to figure out what's what, because the labeling's all screwed up. And there are so many times.
Damn it, Ray.
Make
Robert's job easier. Ray
all
is
of
wrong.
us are like, and this was back when we were still recording in the same space. We're all like in my living room, and I'm like, oh my God, if that fucking happened in 2022, I would have kicked everybody the fuck out and like, no, I am not getting sick. But just a few years ago, it's like, who cares? I just talked to Loogie up on the microphone. I'll wipe it off, probably.
Damn it, Ray. Damn it, Gina. Damn it, everybody.
But yeah, I think I took a theater class because it filled like a basic education requirement or something like that, and I was like, oh yeah, that's nice. Ooh yeah, give me some more of that. So that was
boom operator.
That was the first derailment of my college career, because like I started doing theater and then just kind of like, I don't really want to do history anymore. I don't want to go to math, and my grades started tanking. I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to take some time off from school. It took like 5 years or something like that. Then came back. I had finished my English requirements by then. So I was like, you know what? At some point I'll come back. I'll finish up the gen eds and I'll, have an English degree. When I went back, they're like, oh, sorry, we changed all the requirements. So now you can't get an English degree with that. I'm like, what am I closest to? And they're like, you're almost to a theater degree. I'm like, done. Just give me a goddamn BA so I can get out of here.
You think it's difficult now, guys, with all these other stupid requirements. And keep in mind, he was having to avoid these boring history classes, and this was before they were getting rid of any mention of slavery and saying, hey, let's teach about bullshit like creationism.
To be fair, it was Bakersfield, so they weren't. Actually, no, I take that back. California
the Dark
was actually
Secrets.
A pretty good school. It was a pretty good school. A surprisingly good English department, I think, because so many like really good English teachers moved to Bakersfield because it's hot and it's easier on their arthritis. So you got these people from like really respected institutions who are just basically slumming it.
There's your
go learn some good shit from them. So,
okay. Here's my pitch to you. Coming to TLC, if not PBS. The Secrets of Bakersfield with Robert Clarke-Chan. that would be the whole deal in. Everyone's thinking it's like a shocking, like true crime bullshit or everything. And then next thing you know, is like the twist is it's actually pretty pleasant and down to earth. Neat here.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. It's still terrible. It would still end up being a true crime thing because I would be murdered. There are a couple of small pockets that many of which are gone now.
You're not murdering anybody because you're sick of their shit?
Nope. I skedaddle. I'm a runner, not a fighter.
Fair enough. Running is half the podcast. So you've been fortunate enough to hang out and perform and write and even host shows at the Upright Citizens Brigade, Second City Hollywood, and even IO West. Did you meet any familiar faces there, as well as just get some other just great advice where you're just like, next time you met that person, you're like, that was so meaningful that you took 5 seconds just to tell me that. That was great. It wasn't just bullshit and having fun.
Let's see. I teched at UCB for a long time. Ran shows at IO. I didn't do. There wasn't a whole lot of celebrity interaction. A bunch of people came by and be like, "Hey, would you like a water? Do you want me to get you some beer?" And that was mostly the extent of it. I got to see a number of comedians sort of in their nascent stages, or well on the way, and they're just like a lot of them had come from New York and were like their landing pad was UCB.
You're fucking up our scene here, man. We're more free spirited.
I just ran lights and got to watch a shit ton of amazing people do their thing, and then had a bunch of teachers that I had a teacher. I had Adam Pally for Improv
wonderful.
501, one of those or something like that.
Before he was on Conan and Mindy Project.
Yeah, and
just got interviewed
because he did a show. He got booked on a show, so he was gone.
Bye, bitches.
The sub for us was Curtis Gwynn, who then went on to become like an EP for The Walking Dead.
Holy shit!
I don't remember if it was The Walking Dead that he went to, but he basically I think it was like near the end of that class went and got a job that then because I remember him telling us at the time he's a comedy guy, and he was like I just got a job writing for this drama show, and I think it might have been a genre show, so it's Walking Dead or something like it. And we're like, wow, how do you do that? He's like, well, fucking, you can do different things. You don't have to just do comedy for the rest of your fucking life.
I submit dry comedy lines that they end up not using, but I'm still credited anyway on a zombie show.
And that's also the great thing about improv is that it makes your acting better. It makes your life philosophy better, and it makes you able to do absolutely anything you want. It makes it easier because it helps.
You don't have to stick to a scripted sitcom. You can be the straight guy in the scene. You can be the guy breaking down, and really everyone else's interactions that's what's funny, but you're kickstarting all the drama and wackiness.
It's basically about being able to find your creativity and access it so much more easily, and looking at a scene and knowing what it needs. Because you do enough long form, somebody walks out on stage and you can just tell by their posture, okay, I see what they're going for. I'm going to, come out and offer this counterpoint. I'm going to be two peas in a pod. I'm going to mirror them, and, we're off to the races. We're doing a thing. And when you're looking at it helped my screenwriting because I'm like looking at a blank page and I can just sort of rattle things off. Like, let's just see where this goes. And it's like, obviously anybody can do that, but when you practice it, it just becomes a lot easier. And
as opposed to adapt now.
Yeah.
So you said you didn't think your storytelling was up to par, even though I've had delightful time here hearing you reminisce. When did you decide to get into writing for sites such as Yahoo?
Like most things in Los Angeles, I got that because one of the women on my second city class was the wife of a guy who worked at Yahoo, and they're like, we need a freelancer. Hey, do you know anybody? Oh yeah, Chan's a good writer. And that was it. Like so many things, you just sort of fall into it. I'm like, oh, look, I can use this semi-non-existent English degree I have.
Just like these other guys, I'm no exception.
Yep, that's what a lot of it is. That's another nice thing about improv is you're like, yes, absolutely, I will do this thing that I was not expecting when I woke up this morning, but we'll see where it goes.
When did you?
It was a lot of fun because that's where I met a crap ton of celebrity, actors, like people you may know. Didn't get to become friends with any of them, but
right. You still get to ask them all the questions and tell them you want this omitted. You want
go on the junkets, yeah. Get the free food and
free.
That's
food.
Really, I look for jobs that have free food, and I'll tell you what, as a freelance writer, there's a lot of them because those studios want you to be nice to them.
Have an apple.
Unfortunately, entertainment journalism is I didn't know it at first. At first, I was like, "Oh, you want me to write about this thing? Okay." And it was, I think the first thing I wrote was, it was this reality show that was about diving, and they got celebrities to dive, like do high dive shit.
You sure it wasn't a metaphor for their career trajectory?
I mean,
took a dive, man.
There was Louis Anderson. There was a little person who I don't think was Billy Barty. Of course, like an idiot. That's the only person I can think of.
Warwick Davis.
Some other. it was someone of that caliber.
Mini-me.
Like you would recognize them, and it felt like a goddamn freak show. There were like just ordinary actors, and then a couple of just people. You're like, what? They're diving, and it felt really terrible.
Water.
Yeah, it felt exploitative. And I wrote that. I wrote how shit it was. And the editor was like, could you lighten that up? Just make it, a little bit nicer. And I'm like, oh.
There's nothing nice about this show. Oh, it's like I'm giving a bully a free pass.
Then I was introduced to the concept of entertainment journalism, which is you write nice things about them.
Ego stroking.
To be fair, you're writing for the people. If someone's clicking on this thing about diving celebrities, they just want to see celebrities dive. That seems like a fun thing to them. And so as an entertainment journalist, I'm writing for people who are already interested in this thing. Because if they don't want to know about celebrity diving, they won't click on it. Mm-hmm. So, I adapted. And it was pretty fun.
Well, and that's a trip. So you've been fortunate enough to be a guest on shows such as Science Jerks, The Regenerates, Atomic Monsoon.
What? Hold on. Science Jerks was my show. The Regenerates was also my show. Here's the thing. In 1999, I got a job as an office manager for a crappy little startup called Motion Broadcasting. They were going to put radio stations on the internet. It was a big deal at the time. I don't know if you remember Real Player, but I motherfucking do.
I do. I see so many other people who still think they're taking over the net. I'm like, you're internet radio. I guarantee you more people are still listening to XM and regular radio.
And so, the bubble was just about to burst, but I was there.
He was there
paying me to like make copies and shit. And they had all this equipment. So I'm like, hey, you know what? Can I, nobody's in here. Can I just play with it?
Can I borrow your storage room and have 500 episodes ready to go?
Can I borrow your fancy ass $400 mics? Tell you what. And so basically I started doing a podcast. I wrote jokes and did sort of like a weekend update kind of thing. Then I brought in some of my friends and we just talked about the news or some topics. We brought in topics. And so it was a podcast in 1999 before anybody knew or gave a shit.
So the Regenerates or Science Jerks?
No, that was something called Bastard Nation.
Bastard Nation. I love it.
And it was so far back that I don't have digital files of it. I have them on cassette. I recorded them off a tape deck that was connected to the computer. I still have a stack of them in my house that I need to get redigitized.
That should be the next Knowing Is Half the Podcast episode. You review all your archive tapes.
Absolutely not. Because you know what? Comedy doesn't always date well. Ooh. And because I am a contrarian, I said all sorts of things that I would be ashamed of, that would get me in trouble, that would probably get me fired.
He's not running for office, guys.
Oh, God, no. Not as long as these things exist. In general, I do feel good that my heart was in the right place. There was never a time when I was punching down. But a lot of times, for great swaths of my career, because I am black, I feel like I can use the N-word. And I use it to make white people uncomfortable. And you know what? You don't always need that. You don't. So I'm just going to let these things lie.
Tarantino took over.
Yeah. Thanks, Quentin.
For making us even more backwards. But there's people who still think is alternate history. That's based on real life, right? I'm like, no, motherfuckers. Jesus.
But then years later, I was like, wait a minute. Podcasting, I can fucking do this. So I bought a microphone, and I don't even remember what the first couple of them were, because there's a whole bunch of them I just started. And basically, I was like, get a friend, get a subject, and let's talk about it. And the Regenerates was one I did with Riley Silverman, where we were just talking about Doctor Who episodes. And nice. Science Jerks was one where we talked about science news. And then we did some YouTube stuff. And,
I'll have to go in the vault and look for those.
They're still up somewhere.
On being Anchor. Anchor wasn't around yet, so probably.
And the one Knowing Is Half the Podcast has just been around the longest, because after a while I just sort of figured out, how do we keep this thing going?
When did you meet Ray and Gina? Were they at the various improv tropes, or were they?
I met Gina at UCB in 2009.
Nice.
Possibly. We did some stuff back then. I met Ray because the Second City show.
He forced you at gunpoint. No.
Well, no, I did a Second City show with his wife, who was a lovely person. And then Ray was there in the immortal words of James. And at some point, Ray was just like, hey, you want to do a G.I. Joe podcast? I was like, no, that sounds stupid. I don't like G.I. Joe. Why would I do that? I was like, come on, it'd be fun. I'm like, oh, Jesus Christ. All right. Well, on one condition, we get a female voice in there, because I'm not just going to fucking talk about old cartoons with a white dude or two white dudes.
Right. How dare you be white, Ray?
Hit up Gina, and yeah, that's how it is.
Did James or Brent Pope make you join the Who Would Win team, or was that just kind of...
what was that? I feel like they had me on as a judge a few times. I really liked it.
Totally.
And then at some point, I think at one point they were renting recording space. There's like a studio like down in South LA or something like that. It took forever to get to, and they recorded like 6 or 7 episodes in a single day, which is insane. And the quality shows.
I do it every day.
Shows. It is a terrible idea, Sully. I'm telling you right now, do not do it.
I've already done it 20 different times. It makes sense because I can't get them up every week. So you gotta just Film Seizure, shout out to them. They do like 3-hour sessions where they break down an entire franchise because they marathon it. They have all their notes. It makes sense to just get it all out there on the way there. The only time it backfired was when, of course, internet was uncooperative. But
I can only make so much.
You just got to really love what you do. But I understand it's not for everyone, so you pick your formula and you go with it. And
yeah, like as a performer, I know my limits. I know when I run out of positive energy, and I'm like, then we fucking watch this thing. Jesus Christ, can we go home now?
There are episodes where it does sound like Ray or James are out of breath. James is having to repeat all the same stuff for the sponsors and everything. And then on, Ray's show with you too, there are times where it's like, okay, we're done with the promo. Now we got to actually get into this Happy Days cartoon and all this other crap that we, at the end of the day, Ray has to be the defendant. Oh, it's not bad. No, it's fucking terrible. Someone actually thought kids would understand this when kids at the time ignored it. I actually asked someone the other day, did you know they did a Happy Days cartoon? And like, why? How do you know that?
Who told you?
Why do you want to?
Thought we had it scrubbed from the histories.
Worse than George Lucas realizing there were eBay copies of the holiday special stars. Oh, man. So that's great. I'm glad these are your current gigs. What are you watching right now that you'd recommend that everyone get off their ass and start binge watching?
The most recent thing,
movies and shows.
What we do in shadows. Trying to think of the things that we're currently watching. Just watched Only Murders in the Building, the season finale. That's a really good show, man. A League of Their Own. That series, was not expecting it to be what it was, and it was fantastic.
Nice.
Paper Girls is pretty good. Sandman, obviously. Oh my God, I've been waiting so long for that.
And bless you, Neil Gaiman, for making a statement on no gatekeeping.
It gives and it takes. Yeah, Neil Gaiman is the most amazing person. He is fantastic. And I have friends who are friends with him, and they relate the same thing. It's not like, as soon as he gets off stage, it's like, you know what, the MF and Jews and the he's a genuinely sweet and caring person. I love it. Also, I love the fact that at one point he was married to Amanda Palmer, who I love dearly. She's fantastic.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, but Netflix gives and takes away because they managed to do Sandman, which, for so long thought was impossible. But they also had Bone on the chopping block and cut the production of it, which sounds like it's probably going to be the last time that series ever gets tried to be made. And that makes me very sad. because I'm reading that series to my kid right now. I mean, yeah, there's worse out there. HBO Max.
Oh, yeah. HBO Max is convinced we got to outdo Netflix and Fox in the cancel everything.
Fucking David Zaslav is a monster. A full-blown monster.
Bad monster. Once again, one hell of a guy. Have there been any like other shows that like you've been hearing about and you're like, this is totally up my alley? Like, Abbott Elementary just got renewed. Blackish just ended after spawning 2 spinoffs and doing a lot of other satire. And I have even plenty of other black friends who haven't seen it. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me?
It's a good show.
I can understand watching Insecure, but you have not seen Blackish? People relate so much to this, especially
Insecure's also a good show that we came late to. Enjoy that a lot.
Well, Whiskers?
Oh, Insecure.
Insecure. Whiskers. Okay. Yes. Okay. Yeah. Very cool.
Oh, dang it.
James is a huge fan of The Expanse. Have you ever gone into that?
Love The Expanse. That is a fantastic show.
It's funny how you have to pretty much have 4-hour marathons. Just like, okay, guys, we got to watch 4 episodes a night. There is no 1 or 2. You're gonna. I had to do the same thing with Bosch and a bunch of the other shows that are bingeable on Prime. Like, you're gonna forget the mystery by the end of this episode, and that's not because it's bad writing. It's because it's more detailed than a typical pot boiling novel. You have to pay attention to all these details. No fair saying, "Oh, who was that guy who came out of nowhere?" I'm like, he was 5 episodes ago, loitering around, being a voyeur, and creeping everyone out. He's actually a good guy now.
A lot of our television watching is sort of the brain bleach, kind of like, okay, we gotta wind down from this day.
Uncle.
Like I want to watch The Expanse, but also I do not have the brain capacity at this time. So
that's actually where I was. I was escaping the prison known as college at the time. This was my final year when The Expanse came out, and I was just like, these 2 episodes are great. I'm watching it on demand, so I actually got the creators to chime in and explain what the hell just happened. So that's even more mind-blowing and cool. This nice. Blade Runner Star Trek world that they've created. But I'm going to take 2, and lo and behold, 6 years later, got it all. Okay, so those are some good suggestions. Any just catchphrases that you just want to lead people with? Just like,
wow.
Like MXC has "Don't Get Eliminated," but I think you can do one better.
I'm not one for pithy aphorisms, but I don't know. It feels like I'm in a different place than I was when I was an angry young youth, and now you're not angry. You're just honest. I just want everybody to be happy. I want everybody to chill the F out. I just like want everybody to treat each other like human beings, like they know them and they care about them, because so much stuff is like, well, those people do X or Y, and if you're saying those people, that's they're not people to you anymore.
Well, I didn't mean it derogatorily. Well, what else do you mean by
100%? Because it's real easy to turn a human being into just a thing. That's what it was. Yeah.
But Robert, I don't believe in white privilege. No, just kidding.
One of my stupid Facebook things is a Terry Pratchett quote group, and they just drops occasional Pratchettisms that are so amazing. We have replaced all of our Harry Potter shit in the house with Discworld, because it's a great
Harry
series.
Potter's ironic because now everyone does legit want to burn those books just so J.K. Rowling doesn't get any money out of it.
Yeah. No, I took them all because I bought the hardbacks, and I'm not about. I used to behind me used to have a bunch of books because my house is full of books.
He's in the Twilight Zone for those who can't see.
Yeah, there's a white wall behind me now, and I'm like, because now this place is big enough that I can put all of my books in. But like, I don't get rid of books. I love books, and I love books around.
I had to stop doing that with so many used bookstores because I found out they were actually gonna take something to the oven. I was like,
oh no.
Then you're just sell it.
I thought this was a no-kill shelter. What are you doing?
Right? Don't kill your darlings. Don't kill your dog. And it's just like, it did get to her. It's like, just keep them. Because the bookstores, they're all just getting with the times, and the times are shitty. Oh.
Yeah. So I put my Harry Potters into a box. I didn't throw them away, and I didn't burn them. But
the Museum of Robert Clarke-Chan.
They would just be away. But there was a Terry Pratchett thing, and I think it was Granny Weatherwax, who said something along the lines of, don't treat people as things, because that's like every other evil in the world flows from that. As soon as you think of people as not people, then, you can do whatever you want with them. It's just like kicking a box. Who cares if a person dies or
no fair getting annoyed that someone else pointed out you're using me as property,
Yeah.
Well,
no. Don't treat other people as things. There you go. There's the word of wisdom.
Thanks. Well, this has been a delight and really cool insight, and I hope you get to host another cool show.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it.
Anytime. For this leading up to this, Robert was just thrown out so many sarcastic remarks. What the hell do you want to interview me? I'm like, because you're a very fascinating guy. No, just shut up. No, I mean it.
I'm just a bullshitter like every other bullshitter out there.
Yeah, but you're not the one filling everyone's lines like, hey, why can't I see reruns of The Cosby Show or All in the Family and take it out of context? No, don't do that.
Yeah, sadly, when you asked me what my comedy influences are, I was like, because one of them was Bill Cosby, and I've had to reckon with that. And so
it's okay. We didn't know, guys. We had stupid journalists who went along with the whole, well, we can't have a scandal on some bad person unless we just feel it's true all of a sudden. Even though it is actually true.
We should have known.
Right.
That Spanish Fly joke, that chunk was like one of my favorite bits as a kid. And then looking back, I'm like, oh no, you were serious. Oh, right. Shit.
Oh man, my pal Roy Buckingham on Cult Cinema Catacombs was rewatching Commando like in his first season, and they had the Blu-ray, and so for the first time they realized, wow, Dan Hedaya is supposed to be playing like Hispanic American, guy, and they're like, and they had to just shrug it off as like, we didn't have the Blu-ray to confirm this. We just had a stupid blurry VHS before we knew about all this stupid whitewashing.
We all knew about Scarface. We all knew, and we let it happen.
Eric Roberts took note. He basically did that in The Specialist with Stallone. He's like, I want to be like Pacino and Scarface. Well, I don't think you should do that. Not that Eric Roberts takes any advice, but
look, we all make mistakes in our youth. It's our job.
300 movies later. And I say that as a fan, but apparently he's Mr. Cue Cards, and I know you, Mr. Chan, you're not going to be Mr. Cue Card. Man,
I don't mind an occasional cue card. Why do you think I do improv? I suck at memorizing.
Well, no, cue card's appropriate for that. I just mean he's pulling a Marlon Brando where I don't want to think. But then again, if you're doing 20 shitty movies a year, and no joke, guys, look at his resume, you might end up having to do it.
I tell you one thing about living in Los Angeles is the ideas you had about a creative life change so drastically. And when you see someone doing terrible work, you got to recognize that everybody who's involved in that production really wants to make a good production. And it doesn't always turn out. And then, you know that because you've been in them, where you're like, yes, we did it. We made this movie. And then it comes out and you're like, oh no, what happened? It was so good at one point.
Half the time, it's not half bad. It's just the marketing screwed up. You got a crappy Photoshop poster, or unconvincing trailer with a cheesy Don LaFontaine knockoff voiceover. So yeah, it's like it was dead on arrival because marketing screwed up on that lame poster, and you're like, it's still a decent, watchable movie that'll fill up the 2 a.m. slot. But
the other thing though is that sometimes you do bad things and you earn a paycheck for it. And you know what? Mama needs her health insurance, so some things are going to happen. Some things are going to get made.
Yep. And then you answer convincing questions about it 20 years later. So it still wins. That bad movie made you more money than your good movies even. I want to ask right now, Forrest Whitaker, I don't want to ask him about how he got the roles in great movies like Last King of Scotland or Street Kings or Ghost Dog. I want to ask him what more unknown stories about working on Battlefield Earth and Species. But, it's just more interesting that way. Jamie Lee Curtis, I want you to sign my Blu-ray of Virus.
I mean, that's why I love Bruce Campbell so much. Circle back around one final time, back in the MySpace days when there's like, who are your heroes?
Oh, but what's that?
I wrote Bill Hicks. No, we're only old people are listening to the show, right? Right? We don't need to explain.
I still have photos from MySpace that have since been omitted of various celebs. I'm like, oh, great behind the scenes photos. Too bad it went away when the site crashed and then got bought by JT.
Bill Hicks, Mick Foley, and Bruce Campbell, because Bruce Campbell is a dude who just sometimes does terrible stuff. And I was like, yeah, I work. That's my job. And thinking of a creative life, you're like, oh, I'm going to create fantastic art. I'm going to express myself. Sometimes you're just going to make bad movies or bad things because it's financial.
Someone had to outdo William Shatner. Yeah.
Yeah. And you have a great measure of respect for it. Like, you just that's something you got to do. To do the good stuff, you got to do the bad stuff.
I welcome working with you on a movie one of these days. Well, you're welcome to join our Hitman crime drama one of these days. We're going to do a audio drama get together, meet and greet, and everyone just throws out ideas.
Love it. Hit me up.
I'm into Dramify. All right. So it's been a delight having you on here and just having some insight into various just areas. Again, just various communities, various creativity that no one thinks twice about shedding insight on. So this has been terrific.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, man. A lot of fun.
Likewise. And Godspeed to you. Any other upcoming plugs that you just have to throw out under contract?
I don't know. Go listen to Knowing's Half the Podcast. Go listen to AE Double Back if you like wrestling. That's all I got.
Wrestling predictions.
It is such a weird ass time right now. I got nothing. I will say I've been off WWE for so long. I've tried to come back and watch a little bit. I'm like, what? Even with Triple H running it, it's still kind of baffling to me. So I do think that there are interesting times ahead, and hopefully AEW doesn't collapse under its own weight before we get there.
Nice. Hopefully they can start a fantasy football edition of wrestling.
I have tried to do that so many times. Maybe
I've tried to do that with action movies or horror movies, like Your Dream Team, and it seems like it goes in waves. It's like a brief forum that lasts for 2 days and then goes away again, and then you're just like, damn it, I know you guys are out there. It's like, oh, I don't use the internet. Oh, no, on Facebook. Oh, I don't want to do a podcast.
I mean,
why deny yourselves fun?
You want to consider doing a podcast of, I don't know, like 2 disparate characters from film or television and have them battle it out and say some sort of 3-round format where you debate who would best one another. You could call it Who Would Best One Another.
There you go. Who would best? Lawsuit by the Who Would Win Enterprises. That's too derivative. What's funny is when I was getting into the Who Would Win show, there was already another podcast called Who Would Win Cast. So I was very confused at first.
There are many of them. I got on too late to be able to tell them that's a stupid idea. But what are you going to do? things are going okay these days.
I got into this after years of just going through comic book forums and just being like, I love these versus battles, and then being told, Cameron, shut up, I don't play that game.
That's what it's there for.
For life. You were the best judge ever.
Thank you.
I mean, it's...
Yeah, just wait until you get into that Patreon. There's a whole bunch of Thunderdomes waiting for you.
But can we get beyond Thunderdome?
No. It turns out that there's nothing beyond Tina Turner. She is the end.
I should post that in the group. Who would win in this fight? Ike Turner or Mel Gibson? Ooh, too soon. Tina Turner or Vanity? Boom.
Ooh, that's rough.
Tina deserves a better matchup than that, but I'm just throwing shit out there.
I mean, here's the thing. Tina got legs for days. They just won't quit. So I would not bet against her in any combat.
My uncle, when he was going to his various drag shows, used to have a perfect Tina Turner wig. I think he still has it somewhere in his closet.
Nice. Yeah, maybe I'll go as Anti-Entity next Halloween.
Hey, there you go.
However, also, every day is Halloween.
That's true.
Do it up.
Okay, well, such a delight. I gotta let you go. So, you can find, again, Robert Clarke-Chan on Twitter. You can find him just about all the podcasts.
At 999 RPMs.
Where did that username come from, by the way?
Because as a callow young youth, I was like, ho, I'm going to be all cool and satanic, but I'm going to flip it on you so you won't even realize that it's actually 666. Yeah, I was kind of a douchebag as a kid. And then I grew up and remained a douchebag. But also, there are literally hundreds of thousands, if maybe even millions, of Robert Chans in the world. So getting a Robert Chan handle on anything.
If he asks you for to open up money in Uganda, that's not him.
And there's not some dumbass cartoon picture of me farting or something like that. That's probably not me. That's not my profile.
Ray. Sorry.
Yeah, it's probably Ray.
Thanks for being on here. You rocked it.
Follow us on the web on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. The podcast is available on Podbean, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Anchor, Apple, and anywhere else podcasts are available. Feel free to review our show and leave comments on any of those sites. Thanks a million for listening.
It's a jacked up review show.